So being in the communication field, we found that most communication problems, they're not caused by a lack of intelligence or effort. No, no, no. They're caused by a lack of clarity. And clarity doesn't start with learning techniques. It actually starts with understanding yourself and your communication styles. That's why we created this Talk Tactics Lead with Clarity workshop, where we're going to focus on helping you communicate with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Hi, I'm Dr. Lindgren. I'm so glad you made it. Now let's get ready to start leading with clarity. So in this workshop, we're going to help you understand how communication shapes leadership, trust, and relationships. When we talk about clarity, we're talking about communicating in a way that people immediately understand what you mean and what's going to happen next. Clarity removes the guessing, it removes the confusion, and it replaces that uncertainty with direction. Clear communication answers three questions for the listeners. What do you mean? What do you need from me? What happens next? So there are 5 key things you're going to learn. One, you'll understand your DISC, which is just a framework that helps explain why people communicate differently. 2, you're going to identify your own communication styles. 3, you'll learn how to recognize communication styles in others. 4, you'll learn how to adapt your communication so people, can actually understand you. And 5, you're going to improve your leadership by becoming more intentional and clear in how you communicate, which is what everybody wants. So now we're going to spend a little time focusing on something that affects every relationship you have, whether it's in school, work, leadership, or just life. We're going to look at the way that you communicate. Communication is not just about what you say, but about how you say it, when you say it, and how it's going to be perceived. Many conflicts happen not because people mean harm, but because they communicate differently. Today's session is designed to help you understand your natural style, recognize other styles, and learn how to adapt when needed. So this workshop has 4 main goals. First, we want you to understand the DISC framework. Second, we want you to identify your own primary communication style. Third, we want you to recognize the different styles in the people you work with. And fourth, we want you to learn how to adjust your communication to be more effective. This is important because strong communication leads to stronger relationships, better teamwork, and better leadership. When you understand yourself, you lead more intentionally. So before we get started, I want you to think about the last difficult conversation you had. It could have been at work, it could have been at home, it could have been with a friend. Take about 2 minutes to write down what made it difficult. Pause the video here. Here's what I've learned after years of studying communication and working with teams and individuals. Most conflict, it's not about the issue. It's about how we communicate about that issue. Today is not about labeling you, and it's not about telling you what you're doing wrong. It's about awareness, because awareness creates choices, and choices create growth. So this workshop is for leaders like you, but also it's for parents, professionals, students, and anyone who wants healthier conversations in their life. So let's get started to understanding ourselves. Now, before we get started with that quiz, we need to know what the DISC is. It's just a behavioral and communication framework that looks at patterns and how people respond to challenges, interacts with others, and makes decisions. It focuses on 4 styles. So dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. These styles reflect tendencies, not labels. So think of the DISC as your default setting. So when you are tired or stressed or busy, you usually kind of fall back into your natural style. So understanding this helps you communicate with awareness instead of reacting automatically. Now, the DISC does not measure intelligence, character, or potential. It measures patterns of behavior. It shows how you typically respond under normal circumstances and under stress. It doesn't put you in a box. It helps you understand the box you sometimes operate from. So you may be asking yourself, why does the DISC even matter? Like I said, most communication problems, they're not caused by bad intentions. They happen because people with different styles are trying to work, live, and relate without understanding each other. So the DISC is going to help us to recognize our own patterns, understand why people communicate differently. It's going to help reduce unnecessary conflict, and it's going to improve teamwork and relationships, and it's going to help us respond instead of reacting. So when we understand the DISC, you're going to stop asking, why are people like this? And then you are going to shift over and start asking, what styles are showing up right now? And that shift alone improves communication. So, alrighty, so let's take a look at how we are going to do our assessment. In order to get this book, make sure you go to our website, create a free account. No, we don't spam you or anything like that. Once you create that account, you will have access to this workbook. So once you get the workbook, you will scroll down to page 3. And what you are going to be doing is taking a condensed version of the DISC Quizlet. You can go online and take a more in-depth one, but this is just a little quick overview of your communication styles. So what I need for you to do is think about your work behavior, okay? We're going to use a scale of 1 to 5. Answer honestly. You don't need to compare yourself to others, and you just need to be consistent when you're answering these questions. So how you're going to do it is 1 being you strongly disagree with it, and 5, you strongly agree with it. Don't overthink it. Just how you would react in the workplace. Okay. Then you will scroll down to page 5, and it just gives you a quick example here. So I am direct and decisive. I'll somewhat agree with that. Yeah, I'm going to say I'm a 4 on that. Then I am enthusiastic and optimistic. Yeah, I'm that. So I'm going to give myself a 5. I am patient and cooperative. I would say, yeah, I am. So I'm going to give myself a 4. I am detail oriented and accurate. I'm neutral with that. It depends on the day. And I prefer fast results. Yes, I will definitely agree with that one. So that's how you're going to go through and answer them. Once you've completed section A, B, C, and D, then you're going to come down here and you are going to tally them up to see what your score is. So for my example, on A, I was a 4, 5, 4, and 3, and a 5. So I'm just going to add those numbers up. That gives me a 21. So for section A, that is the D in the DISC. So for D, I am a 21. And then I would do the same for section B, C, and D and add them up. And whatever my highest score is, and then the second highest score are my main primary styles of communication. Alrighty, now that you have finished your quiz, let's take a look at these styles. So dominance, that D, just means direct, result driven. driven and goal focused. So D styles are motivated by outcomes, efficiency, and forward movement. They tend to approach situations by asking, what's the goal and what needs to happen, and let's get going. Now, their strengths are decisive, efficient, confident, and action oriented. They are comfortable making decisions and taking charge with progress as needed. Their blind spots may come across as impatient, they're blunt, and intimidating, especially when focused on results over relationships. Now, in their personal lives, they can unintentionally appear controlling or dismissive when they're simply just trying to solve a problem quickly. And for growth focus, they need to slow down, listen more intently, and start making space for others' inputs and perspectives. Now, for the influence, the I, that just means it is people focused, they're expressive and enthusiastic. I styles are energized by interactions and connections. They bring emotion, creativity, and engagement into conversations. Their strengths are motivating, rationale, optimism, and engaging. They naturally inspire people to build strong interpersonal connections. And their blind spots, they may struggle with follow through, organization, and setting boundaries due to their relational focus. Now, in their personal lives, they probably overcommit, probably say yes a little too often, and avoid difficult conversations to maintain the harmony. And for growth focus, they need to stay focused. They need to follow through on their commitments and start creating structure to support their ideas. Now, for the S, the steadiness, that just means, you're calm, supportive, and dependable. So, S styles value stability, consistency, and harmony. They often serve as the emotional anchor in teams and in relationships. Their strengths are going to be they're loyal, they're patient, dependable, and supportive. They create safe, steady environments where others feel comfortable and valued. Now, their blind spots, they may avoid conflict. They're going to suppress their frustrations or they're going to prioritize others' needs at the expense of their own. Now, in their personal life, they often carry emotional weight quietly and may hesitate to express their own needs or concerns. Now, for their growth focus, they need to learn to speak up, express their needs, and set healthy boundaries. And for the conscientiousness, the C, that just means they're detail oriented, they're analytic, and they're precise. So the C styles are going to be motivated by accuracy, logic, and doing things correctly. They value quality, structure, and thoughtful decision making. Their strengths are going to be, of course, their high standards, their analytical thinking, their organization, and attention to detail. They're going to bring clarity, structure, and careful evaluation to whatever situation they're in. Now, their blind spots are going to be they're going to overthink their decisions. They're going to struggle with perfectionism, or they're going to come across as being overly critical. And in their personal lives, they may have difficulty adapting to changes or trusting others to meet their standards. And for their growth focus, they need to let go of the perfectionism. They need to start embracing flexibility and they need to start trusting others and letting them contribute. Now, I want you to remember, okay, these are not a set plot that you're in. They're just there to kind of let us know what our default communication styles are. And as we grow and mature, these styles are going to change as well. Alrighty, guys, so I know that was a lot to take in, and we are going to end our first session right here. So we have time to digest those scores. And when we come back next Wednesday, we are going to take a look at our reflection questions within that work booklet. And then we are going to talk about self awareness, communication, and leadership, and why that's important within that DISC framework. And then that's going to lead us on to talk about how we communicate who we are through what we do and how we communicate under pressure. And that's going to lead us to the action plans within that work booklet. So make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next Wednesday so we can get you guys speaking with clarity and with confidence.